Welcome to Patty's Aquatic. So today what I want to do is sort of talk about my live stream that I had with Cory from Aquarium Co-op, which I'll put the link above. I really want to explain how the conversations I had with him really truly meant a lot, and that I learned a lot from them, and that really how conversation itself between two hobbyists that maybe see things a little differently can still communicate with each other, understand each other, have open minds, maybe learn something from each other. And with that, there will be a few changes within my fish room and my channel, which I want to explain in this video. And by the way, I'm doing water changes. I don't know, I heard a few things on live streams this weekend that said I didn't do water changes, which I don't know where that came from because I've always done water changes. So stick around. All right, I got all my water changes done. There was no way I was going to be able to talk and film at the same time because that was just going to lead to disaster. Now, I had planned on talking about this in my live stream that would be happening on this Sunday, but I have been sick since New Year's Day, pretty bad with just a nasty cold and cough and chest congestion, and you could probably hear it. And I probably wouldn't be able to sit through an hour of a live stream without hacking my brains off and probably falling over from not being able to breathe. So I thought it'd be easier just to kind of put my message out here in a shorter video and do it that way. So that being said, now really what did I learn in that conversation with Cory from Aquarium Co-op, and what did I learn in general from conversation? What I found is that if you can have two like-minded people to be able to have open minds and have conversation, you can talk about anything. And that's just the thing, is that yes, I knew coming in that Cory was not a dirted tank guy, and I'm okay with that. I respect his opinion, and I wanted to know really his thoughts on some of the ways that I'm keeping the fish I do in my fish room. So I wasn't expecting him to be like, oh yeah, dirty tanks are the best. I wanted his honest opinion, because that's how you learn. If you want to be able to learn and adapt with your hobby and what you do with our crafts, you want to be able to hear the opinions of other people, but it's got to be people that are open-minded. If you get people that are just living within a glass box that don't see anything other than their own opinion, you're not going to be able to want to take advice or information from people that are like that. Or it wasn't like that with Cory, and I really appreciated the conversations we had. Now, talking about changes within my fish room and my channel, no, they're not going to be drastic, so don't worry. I'm 100% staying with dirted tanks. I'm not getting rid of dirted tanks. And I'm not getting filtration back into my aquariums. I don't plan on doing that, although I do have a couple sponge filters in a couple tanks right now, but that's only for testing purposes for cloudy water. The two tanks that I had that are newer that have cloudy water right now, I put a couple sponge filters in to see if maybe that would help speed up that process. And then my white cloud tank, I've had such a, I don't know if you've seen it in past videos, I've had like a dusty water from the mold. For some reason, I can't get that under control. So, I mean, obvious, you would put a filter in there to help kind of filter that out. So I put a sponge filter in that one as well to kind of see how it goes. Those are just short term, but what will I be changing? And that's going to be the air aspect that I talked about with Cory in that live stream. That did touch a chord for me. You know, he had mentioned getting a dissolved oxygen meter, and that's a great idea. The problem is those things are like about $80 or so, and that's not cheap for me, especially after Christmas. And honestly, my wife would stomp a mud hole in my behind if I spent that on there right now. So the easiest choice and cheapest choice for me is really just to put those airlines back in. Now, I haven't really decided if I plan on doing that 24/7 or back on the timer stages like I had before, which are basically putting them on at night when that oxygen levels are going to be at their lowest. All right, back from a coughing jag. Now, yes, I'm going to put air back into my aquariums. I'm just not 100% sure if I'm going to be doing it 24/7 or on a timer at night like I used to. The other thing I want to talk about really is I don't believe I have to put air stones in every aquarium. Surface agitation on the water is a big thing. I have 3 tanks that have wave makers, including my rainbow shiner tank here. That surface agitation for that gas exchange should be enough, in my opinion, for oxygen within the aquarium as well. So those I will not put airlines in, but the rest of them they will. Once I'm done playing around those sponge filters I talked about earlier, I will add air stones onto there. And also, I had to email all of a sudden after Sunday night stream with Cory, and it said my Aquarium co-op order was confirmed. And I'm like, what? So I looked. He sent me some air stones. So guess what? I got some air stones to throw in my tanks, and also he sent me some of his food, the magic food and the community pellets. So keep an eye out for a review video on that food in the near future. So some of the other things I want to touch on then is, obviously I heard a little bit this weekend on some live streams about how just because Cory said something that everyone is jumping on the bandwagon or something along those lines. When it comes to me, I felt like the conversation I had with Cory when it came to the air was very beneficial. It was very educational, informative, and I took a lot from it. And like I mentioned earlier in this video about really to be able to sit down with somebody that's like-minded and open-minded and have nice conversation, that you can learn things. And if you're open-minded, there might be some things that you can take from it to be able to use within your craft. And that's what I did. So that's what I just want to touch on with that. But now let's talk about the channel. Now the channel I mentioned, there's going to be a little bit of a change as well. Now, again, not drastic. One of the other things we talked about in that live stream was about the education of the Dirty Tanks within the YouTube community. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit because I really feel that there is a lot of good informational videos out there and information out there. But I feel like there's not a lot out there for potential newcomers into the hobby that maybe don't know much about plants themselves. And I feel that can be a little more difficult for people to get into this style of tank. And I want to make sure that I have enough videos out there to be responsible on my end if I am putting out a lot of content about dirty tanks, to show people that there are some things they need to look out for or some things that might be unexpected. And I feel like I do some of that already. I have pros and cons videos. I have what to expect videos, really just to show people some of the things that they may not expect. Sorry. Anyway, so I do have a series of videos I do plan on putting out soon. The first one will be out in a few weeks. It's called The Truth About Dirty Tanks. And then it's going to have different subject matters throughout the different parts of a dirty tank. Now, it's not going to be negative dirty tank, trust me, because I absolutely love dirty tanks. And I think they're hugely beneficial. But they're not for everybody. But I want people getting into the hobby that are maybe have nothing to know about dirty tanks, maybe have a little knowledge and information on it. Now, Father Fish has a huge catalog of videos that will definitely help newcomers coming into the hobby for it, and I highly recommend they check his videos out as well. And he has a huge list of care sheets as well. But the problem is, not everyone's going to follow his care sheets to the step, and like I didn't either. So that's where I come into play, where I want to try to help those people that might see things that maybe you wouldn't experience on his end because they're not following his steps step by step. So that's where I'm coming from with that. I want to take the educational part of it a little more, I wouldn't say a little more seriously, because that's kind of, I've told the story numerous times before in the past. When I first got into this dirty tank style, it was before the trend of the dirty tanks, and there wasn't a lot of information out there, and I kind of just went with it and learned from it. So my whole goal with even starting this channel was just try to show my experiences with these dirty tanks, show some of the things that have happened to me that I have seen with my own two eyes, to help any other hobbyists out there that are maybe going through that same cycle of really not understanding what's happening in their tanks. And that's like the purpose of it. So those are really the main changes that are going to be happening with my channel and my fish room. Like I said, nothing drastic. But I really wanted to end this video with really just talking about the fact that, again, like I said in the beginning, conversation is highly important within our hobby, within our fish community. The problem is people need to be open-minded and listen. You don't have to agree with everybody, but it's very important to have your ears open and just listen to what the other person has to say, to understand where they're coming from. There can never be understanding from another viewpoint, from another style of tanks people may keep, without really hearing what they have to say and taking it in and listening. At the end of the day, you can always agree to disagree. There is nothing wrong with that as long as everybody's respectful. And in that live stream with Cory, I felt it was a great sit down on my end anyway. I was very pleased to be able to talk to him, hear his opinion, tell him mine on some subjects. And I agreed with a lot of things he said. At the end of the day, he didn't say dirty tanks are bad. He just said they're not for everybody. They're not his preferred way, and that's okay. Now we're all humans. We all don't have to do the exact same thing, but as a hobby and as a community, if we want to keep growing, we need to understand each other better, in my opinion. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here before I start coughing my brains off again. So thanks a lot for watching. Stay tuned for upcoming videos. And always remember to think outside the box and take a step back into nature. Hope to see you next time here at Patty's Aquatics.